probably like 4 or 5 years ago when we first kind of found this site. We kind of did like a GIS like mapping exercise at first, just to look at some LiDAR layers and the topography of the area, to go do some like groundwork site investigations. And so this was one of the areas that popped up that we thought might work, that might be beneficial. When we actually first looked at it, this swell kind of goes along here, and then it kind of becomes almost like a little wall-based channel back there.
Yeah.
And it goes through some wetlands, and then kind of more might connect, on the upper end. But we decided to stay out of that area, just to leave those wetlands as is, and figured, with the, the length that we had here, we could still do a good channel and leave kind of those wetlands intact. So yeah, it took, it was probably 4 or 5 years ago that we first did the site investigations, and then we came back the following year and dug some test pits to look at the groundwater here. So had an excavator come in, dig some holes, and then we did pump tests to see what kind of flow we were getting in the groundwater. And then that's when we put in our monitoring systems to kind of continuously monitor the groundwater throughout the year. And then we left those in for, at least two to three winters, to really kind of gauge what the flows were, which was good because we got some of I think the first summer we had it in, it was like drought. So it was like really low level. So we could see like what's the worst of the worst. And then this last winter, we had really good rains. So we could see what's the best. And then, kind of based off those, what we were seeing is how we decided to okay, the site will work. And now we know where to kind of put our elevation for the channel, where the groundwater is going to be. So the whole reason for Chum is, because this is BPA funding, they have some responsibilities to improve chum spawning off of the main stem of the Columbia. Some of the stuff they're doing right now with the dams and the flows is kind of messing with the spawning grounds in the main stem of the Columbia River. So because of that, we're looking at, some major tributaries to the lower Columbia, and where could there be additional good habitat that we could kind of boost it up for chum to spawn in, since we might be lacking in the main stem. And so that's how this kind of got started, is looking for areas where chum would, normally flow. And chum really like groundwater, they really like spring-fed systems, and so that's why we needed to find something, that had good groundwater flow, because this is an area where chum will really like to spawn.
So when Melissa and her engineers were figuring this out, they brought out several DNR people. Like I came out here, Alan Leibowitz, who's our shoreline guy, was out here. I brought my boss out here once, and we were looking at all sorts of stuff, not only from a fish standpoint, but also other habitat that's in the area. So this is in an area, part of the world where we think about marble murrelet habitat. And like if you look at this tree, there's mostly deciduous in here, but we've got a few really nice big old mossy spruce trees that we want to keep on site so they can grow into murrelet habitat. And then also really nice older maples like this that murrelets don't nest in, but they really have high wildlife value, as well as shade for this. And so we all worked together to, not only were we following the natural channel impression that was here before, but also thinking about things like protecting root systems for trees like this. And so if you look at this channel, they narrowed it down quite a bit to keep, to keep from impacting the root systems of these big important trees. I don't know, you probably have more to say about it. And then can you talk a little bit about the shape and like the width, depth, and how that relates to what you're trying to accomplish?
Yeah, like you said, we had you guys come out here and take a look at, you kind of marked the drip line of all the trees that we kind of needed to steer clear of, to make sure we're not negatively impacting them, since we are like right up against critical habitat area for marble murrelets. So in doing that, is where we kind of snake the channel around and, try to get as much length as we could and stay out of those like critical root zones. And so this in particular is one of the spots where we have a really large spruce over there, and we have this really large maple here. And before, if you draw it on paper, it was just going to come through here and take out the big maple. So that's why I brought you out here a second time. It's like, okay, what can we do in this section to really make sure we don't lose you know, that big old maple and kind of keep that spruce and keep that safe too and not have any damage to it. And so that's why right here we have some log pilings and some logs kind of paralleling the channel, is because we kind of necked it down here so it has maybe, you know, a 4 or 5 foot toe width, and then up above it kind of spreads out
10
again.
feet. That's almost a 10-foot wide
it's like
channel
8 to 10 feet wide up there. So this is just, you know, a way where we could kind of, you know, manage the habitat that's already here and keep it, and still, you know, put our channel in here. So yeah, they did a good job about, you know, putting in the pilings in, just stacking the logs up, so we can have, so we don't have to have such a long slope, and we don't have to cut so much of the bank. You know, it could just be straight down. Whereas, you know, our other sections of the bank are more sloped back.
Yeah, and this will help keep it. The soil won't unravel. I mean, you could have just cut it narrower, but it would.
It would be unstable, and you just get I mean, the channel would eventually erode into it, and it'd just be fines and silts, which aren't good for spawning gravels. So
Cool.
Yeah. So we put we were putting a timber weirs section in right here, and that just helps us. We'll put a collection box in, either going up or going down, so we can count the adults coming in and we can count the fry coming out, so we know how well our channel is doing and how many fish it's actually producing. There's a couple up here. It's just exciting, you know. They just broke the channel like less than a week ago, and it's already like have little fish coming up and finding it.